Hi, I am David with Rocket City Solar, and I have two groupings of panels here. This one is in parallel, and this set of panels is in series. This video is going to cover why you would put some panels in parallel and why you would put panels in series. To start out with, this set of three panels is in parallel. Parallel allows the voltage of the panels to stay the same and causes the amperage of the panels to increase by the number of panels you have. These panels produce 7.85 amps when connected, and so in parallel the amperage of these panels would be 3 times that amount. These cables, these Y branch cables that these three panels are connected to, cause the panels to be in parallel. This is the negative set of panels. All three wires from each panel is plugged into this Y cable. So these are all three of the negatives, and that right there is all three of the positive wires coming off of the panel. In parallel, all the connections come back to one central location and run from there, and these two wires down here would run back to your central charge controller. On a set of series panels, you connect the panels together end to end, positive to negative, like this. Panels are plugged in together, making a string of panels. On the end, you're left with one negative and one positive. And those wires would be what you would run back to your charge controller. Putting the panels in series causes the voltage to increase and the amperage to stay the same. When connected, these panels produce 30 volts. So having these three panels connected in series would cause these three panels to be producing 90 volts of power together, and the amperage would remain the same, and so the amperage would stay at the 7.65 amperage level. One of the problems with connecting panels in series is if you shade one panel, all of those panels will be affected at the same amount. Connecting them in parallel allows you to shade one panel and the other panels would not be affected. Having them in series keeps the amperage low, which allows you to go longer wire runs on smaller gauge of wire. So having them in series means that you don't have to invest as much money in larger amounts of larger wire gauges. Having your panels in series, such as these three panels here, causes the amperage to stay the same, which means you do not have to invest as much money in higher gauge wire to be able to run your panels from one location to a distance where you can mount your charge controller and your inverter and batteries. Next, we will cover configuring panels in both parallel and series together at the same time. Okay, so these 4 panels are now in what is called 2 series, 2 parallel. These 2 panels are parallel or series connected together, and these 2 panels are series connected together. And the 2 sets of panels are going to parallel together. So these are the two positive cables coming off either of these two series sets are connected to this Y cable, and on this end, this is the negative connector of this set of panels, and in this configuration I would want to run an extension cord coming from that right hand panel right there, coming all the way back down here, and plug into this set of these parallels, and then this would run back to your charge controller, and the same with that would run back to your your positive charge controller. And that allows these 4 panels to be in 2 series, 2 parallel. While you are wiring your panels, it is very important to be aware of the polarity of your panels. On this panel, it's marked that the positive is on the right hand side and the negative is on the left hand side. Those run down, and at the end of those wires are what are known as MC4 connectors. And MC4 connectors are marked as to the polarity of the connector. And as you can see, this one is marked as being positive, and it goes up to the positive on this box. This one is the negative, and it is marked as being negative. Something that's very important to realize is that the wires that are going to connect to the wires on your charge controller, these wires would be an example of what would be coming up from your charge controller up onto your roof. These wires are also going to be marked positive and negative. That one says negative, and that one is marked positive on there. For instance, this one that's marked positive, I've got it on the black wire, and it's marked positive. And the confusing thing is that this is actually not the positive wire. This is going to be the other half of the negative wire on the solar panel. So a solar panel has 2 types of connectors on there, the positive and the negative. This is the negative, and that is the positive. The negative is a bigger piece of plastic, and the positive is a smaller piece of plastic. The negative coming from the solar panel is going to plug into a plug that is marked as being positive, but that plug is actually just the other half of the negative on the solar panel. So these 2 plugs would plug together. Even though this one right here is marked as being positive, it's not really the positive. This would be your negative, and so this would plug into the negative on the solar panel, and then this wire would run all the way back to the negative on your charge controller. So always start with the polarity of the solar panel, where it's marked plus and minus either on the panel or on the connectors, and use that as your polarity, so that whatever is connected to that negative post goes all the way back to the negative on your charge controller. This has been David with Rocket City Solar.